Hey guys, Stephen Cox here, and I'm coming at you from my car. I just thought it would be kind of fun to do a little live session here. I'm trying to figure out if the quality is actually better from the car or if it's actually better from the computer. So if y'all want to, you can let me know if this is actually better or worse. But for now, it's what I'm able to do because that's somewhere I need to be. But I am here. Car base, exactly. So I'm going to roll down the window so I can actually stick the end of it out here. If I hear people being loud or something, then I may roll the windows back up. But it's also kind of warm in here. Alright. So I've done a couple of these before, and I actually got the idea from Chip. I'm trying to remember Chip's last name. Boaz, B-O-A-Z. He did U-Bass sessions from the car. So I'll play a little bit. And so what I'll do right now is probably just make something up and give you a little, just a little kind of concept-based jam or something. So I don't know how many of you guys are theory nuts and everything, but it's been a while since I've done a video where I've done like a drone note and played different things against it. And I always like doing that because it's kind of, you're hearing what like a mode will sound like against the root note of the mode. So for example, let's just say I'm staying in the Ionian mode, which is just the major scale. I have a D down here, and I have a D major scale up here, which means any notes that are D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and back to D. And then I'm running out of notes. There's that C sharp and D there. D, C sharp, B, A, G, and then after that G, F sharp. I can't think backwards for some reason. E, D. Does it sound okay, or is it a little bit too much? Oops, I accidentally changed the mode on you there. So that was major for up until that second to last note there. So now I'm going to go through and do Lydian. So Lydian is going to be a raised fourth note. So instead of having a G, I'm just doing the same exact scale, but replacing the G with a G sharp. Almost starts sounding like The Simpsons if I do that too much. Okay, I'll stop trying to play The Simpsons there. So that's Lydian. So then Mixolydian is kind of like Lydian, only instead of, well, it's kind of like a major scale more than Lydian, with a flatted seventh. So the flatted seventh would be instead of a C sharp, now I'm going to be playing a C natural. But all the other notes are going to be the same as the D major scale. yeah, Seth said something about that. Sounds like kind of like a sitar. That's exactly the concept of a sitar. Is that they also have strings that ring out, but then they also have strings that ring out with sympathetic vibration. So that means like you're playing some of these notes and other strings just start to ring on their own. So they have like tiny little strings that you don't even pluck, basically, that just ring out because you hit the same pitch on a different string or an overtone. So up until now, we've been doing major modes. And what makes them all major modes is that the root and the third are major. And the fifth is major too. So we've got a D, F sharp, A against a D on all those. So if we want to do a minor mode, we got to flat the third. So all the modes, well, with the exception of one that you play with a diminished chord, all the other modes are minor. So of a major scale, the first mode's major, the fourth mode's major, and the fifth mode's major. But the second mode's minor, the third mode's minor, and the sixth mode is minor. And the seventh is kind of diminished, so it's its own kind of thing. Okay, so now we're gonna do, instead of, and these are all like D Mixolydian, D other things. Yeah, so Seth says sounds like the Beatles stuff. They did use Mixolydian a lot. I'm trying to remember. Let me think for a second. How does it go? Well, one. That's an example of Mixolydian with the Beatles. We'll just stay with Mixolydian before I go into the minor modes. And the other one is, I can't remember how it goes. Anyway, there's some other Beatles songs, but yeah, that's one of them. I'll come back to it. I can't remember how the other one goes well enough to play it right now. So we'll go into the minor modes. So the minor modes will have an F instead of an F sharp for anything starting on a D. So we'll start with Aeolian. That's just like normal minor scale. And yeah, so that will be D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C, and then D. So that's what they all sound like against a D. But you could also play this B flat, this A, and this G. Yeah, so the minor scale is just what this mode is. Aeolian mode is just a straight up minor scale. There's one that uses it. So a lot of songs use just the straight up minor scale. Anyway, so that's something fun you can do with that one. If you want to get more of like a sort of Spanish sound to it, you can do Phrygian, which basically lowers, instead of an E, the second note will be lowered to an E flat. But yeah, this one's Phrygian. So, sorry, I missed I didn't get your message until I stopped talking about Aeolian. But Aeolian is just the normal minor scale, and Phrygian is the minor scale with a flatted second note. Oops. Oops, that's not it. That's what Phrygian sounds like right here. It's hard for me to get that to go down. I've been trying to readjust a little bit. Let's see if I can. Hey, Victor, how's it going? I have this set too tight to adjust it very well. So basically, sometimes I'm plucking like up this way, and sometimes I'm strumming downwards with this finger. Maybe I can prop the bass on something, but I don't have a strap with me with this bass. I like it because it's louder acoustically, but it's I don't bring the strap with this one because I really do like the other one a little better. Okay, I'm trying to prop it up on a jacket so it sits a little bit higher so you can see that hand too. And I know it's like I'm not really centered that well. So this is to the Can I See Your Plucking finger as you play. Yes, I'm using my pointer finger and I'm kind of strumming downward like that. Sometimes I'm just plucking upward. Every now and then I'll throw in the middle finger too. Mostly it's just this finger. So that my other fingers aren't covering it up. So that's Phrygian. Dorian sounds more jazzy, and that's just a minor scale with a raised sixth note. So if we're doing D Dorian, that means we'll have a B natural in there. Yeah, so sometimes I'm plucking upward with both fingers, sometimes I'm strumming downward with my fingernail. Yeah. Okay, so Dorian sounds a little bit more jazzy. It'll have a B natural in it instead of a B flat. Oops. Hey, Robert. Okay. So now we've gone over Ionian, which is the first mode. That's one of the major ones. Dorian, which is one of the minor ones. Phrygian is also minor. Lydian is major. Mixolydian is major as well. Then we have Aeolian, which is our natural minor scale, so that one's minor. And then the last one is Locrian, so that one is diminished. So that's going to be a minor scale with a flatted second, but also a flatted fifth. So that's really a very avoidable one, because you can see it's very dissonant. That's the fifth, so we don't want, no, that's the fourth. So as you can see, it sounds very dissonant. It's not very fun to listen to, unless you like dissonance. Sounds like Phrygian up until you do that. And then it's like, oof, no thanks. So it's probably the least friendly for doing against a drone note. So now that you've kind of heard all of that, is there haze where I'm at? Not a lot. There may be a little bit, just kind of looking out. I know they said that the smoke from the fires in Canada reached Atlanta, but I'm not sure. Is Sabbath true Locrian? I'd have to think about that one. I'm not sure, Seth. As far as the Miles Davis, you're right to a degree. So What by Miles Davis, the bass lines in Dorian, pretty much all the chords are, but for some reason when Miles solos over it, he pulls from different modes and different scales, There's some sections in there that he's pulling more from harmonic minor. There's sections in his solo where he's doing more Dorian. And so he's doing what I'm about to say, which is kind of, if you have a drone note, or in his case, if you just have a very modal piece that stays on one chord. So for instance, it's a lot of that song is D minor, right? Or D minor chord. So they're typically playing Dorian over that during the melody, right? Right, all that stuff, that's Dorian, because it has that raised 6. And it's actually D Dorian, so this is even the key that we played in earlier. But in his solo, let's see, what is it? All that's Dorian. I can't remember the rest of it. We had to transcribe it for college, and I remember. But the second time around, the second pass through, he hits some notes that really aren't in Dorian, and he's kind of going with that idea that because it's a minor chord, and there's nothing really telling you that it has to be that, then yeah. Okay, so Victor says he's wondering why he's feeling winded during the workouts, and it must have been the fire. It might have, sorry to kind of get off track, but it might have been, but I found that today I jogged up Kennesaw Mountain. That's near kind of where I'm at, and I didn't have too much trouble jogging up it, so I didn't feel winded or anything. And I don't see much of a haze, but there was an article that said the smoke had been, it might affect sensitive, people sensitive to that, allergies or whatever down here. So I'm not noticing it being super hazy, but maybe there's just a slightest bit. Okay, so we went over all the modes. Now what I like to do with this is I like to go back and forth between the modes, but I like to resolve nicely into different ones. So let's say I'm sitting here and I'm playing Mixolydian, because it's just a fun one to play over here. But I want to go minor. Well, it's easy to go from the second of the scale a half step away, because it kind of leads naturally into it. So I want to resolve into minor, not just randomly jump to it. So like kind of stepping into it rather than just coming from way down there and just randomly going to it. So this is minor. If I want to go back into a major mode, I like going to it approaching from above on the 4th. So that's the 4th note, down to the major 3rd. Now I'm back in Mixolydian. There's that minor. Let's say I want to go into Lydian. Well, I'm in the major, but then I stepped over the note I just resolved down from into the sharp 4 of Lydian. Sorry, that's just my finger not sliding far enough. So it has a floaty kind of feel to it. I want to go into Dorian, maybe. So I went to the flat 7. Now you're like, is it Mixolydian or Dorian? So I kind of came and approached it by a step again. So you can go through all these different modes against a drone note and have them kind of seamlessly work into each other if you approach based on resolving it into a major mode or resolving it into a minor mode. So now I'm in Dorian. Now I'm in Phrygian. I'm on the 5th, all I'm hitting is a D and an A. I can go anywhere I want to with this. Well, I went back to Lydian. That raised 4th makes it Lydian, and then I'm doing the major 3rd underneath it. Now I'm going to mix Lydian, so I flatted the 7th. And you don't know if it's mixed Lydian or some other minor mode until I hit that, and then I'm letting you know it's major. I went major there. That's just plain major, which is Ionian mode. Okay, so now which mode have I not done? I guess Locrian. Oh, that's not Locrian anymore. So I hit the 5th, but if I want... So you can tell it's Locrian because that note makes Locrian, and that note could be Phrygian or Locrian. This note is like, okay, it's Locrian. Okay. So hopefully that's kind of like a fun concept that you can kind of go through if you're just wanting to hear the modes a little bit better. And then that was doing it against the D string, so I was doing all the modes that start on D. So D Ionian, D Dorian, D Phrygian. So that means they're not all on the D major scale, but they all start on D. Those are called parallel modes. So this is really good for parallel modes, this exercise, not relative modes. So not just staying in D major and moving all around, because that just gets kind of, I don't know, you can do that, but it's like, it'll just sound the same regardless of what mode you're in. If you're against a D, you're really just staying in D major. So let's try it against an A, because then we can get 2-note chords against an A. So first we can do the same thing with single notes, but now we can add thirds onto it. So I'm getting my root my root and my third at the same time. So we got major. So then if we were going to do, let's go to the Dorian mode. Well, that first chord would be minor. Second chord would be minor. Let's see. Second chord would be minor too. Third chord would be minor. But the fourth chord in Dorian would be major. Anyway, you get the point. You can do that with chords. I've never really gone through all the modes that way, but it's kind of a cool idea. So if we wanted to do Phrygian, that one might be kind of weird. That one's kind of weird. But yeah, you get kind of the idea that you might get different ideas of sounds if you're trying to write. Then you could do that. So it says Rush, YYZ, C Locrian, possibly. And the Metallica, that one's Phrygian, right? Wherever I may roam, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely E Phrygian. They're doing that same kind of thing, though. They're playing it against a drone note. So you have that drone E. So you have that kind of sound to it. So that one is a perfect example of Phrygian. And kind of how you can make it sound sort of, I don't know if Spanish is the only way, but it has a some sort of exotic kind of vibe to it. Not typical American Western sounding kind of stuff. So, or super Western sounding or whatever. So yeah, so hopefully that kind of gives you some ideas of what to do. But I just thought it'd be a fun exercise to just sort of open up with. I've talked about it before on here, but it's been a while. So then after that, what you could do is you could kind of go back and forth between different drone notes. Although I kind of like to stay in the same key if I'm changing the drone up. So like, let's say I'm playing in D major, and just staying in D major. So I'm playing it over an an A major chord, but that's still in the key of D major, still using notes that are in D major. So you kind of get the idea. So it's just kind of fun doing that. If you play in the key of A major, then your 1 chord is A, your 4 chord is D, and your 5 chord is E major. So then you have 3 drone notes you can go back and forth between while you're doing a 1 chord, a 4 chord, and a 5 chord. If you're playing an A major, that's the same as D Lydian. Same set of notes. I think it's the E. Oh, and I'm not showing my right hand again. So now I'm doing incorporating a little bit of like double thumb, down and up with the thumb, and then pluck after that. Whoops. Yeah, so there's a lot of fun stuff you can do with that, and guitar players do this kind of stuff all the time. They have extra strings so they can get full chords over the drone notes and kind of move them around on that, and it's just a cool sound, but it's also a good way to get your ear comfortable with hearing these different modes, because rather than just playing like a scale pattern, like let's say you're just playing Dorian, if you're not hearing it against a note, you may not be getting the like personality of the mode, right? So you may not really be able to tell how like jazzy Dorian kind of is. Whoops. I don't know, maybe that one's kind of hard to tell that it's jazzy without the drone either, but Phrygian is probably a good one that you can kind of tell it has a cool sound to it. by playing it against a drone. Then you're also going to figure out which notes within the mode or scale are going to clash with the drone note more. So those are like tension notes. Like if you hang out on this note, you better resolve it somewhere, or it might sound just brutal. Okay, so hopefully you guys kind of get that concept of all of that. But do you guys have any questions related to this or unrelated to this? I know Seth's had a lot to say. He says the intro to YYZ is Locrian. Well, it definitely has a tritone in it. I guess you could consider that kind of Locrian. Maybe the is the run also Locrian? What do you think? I'm not sure if I'm playing. Oops, I can't remember the intro well enough. It might be. And then I'm sure some Primus stuff definitely sounds close to Locrian if it's not. Because I certainly like that tritone. It's kind of a key element of Locrian. But yeah, after playing through that kind of stuff, you can add things like trying to slap through it or trying to like go down and up with the thumb on the drone note and then pluck with your pointer finger. So down, up, pluck. So just ways to spice it up. You can also go down, up, pluck on the same string. Or you could also just pluck with your pointer finger through two strings at the same time. And your middle finger can do that too. Or you could just let the note ring out. All right. So does anyone have any questions about the UBase or about these modes or about this exercise? Yeah. Yeah, so there's a cool sound of going kind of down and up with the thumb, kind of going with the fingernails, or kind of hitting two strings at once. So there's a whole lot of ideas there. And then there, what I was just doing a minute ago is harmonics. So what I'm doing there is touching on different parts of the string. So basically like where the string is exactly in half, the part that vibrates, by the way, like, so from the bridge to the nut. If you split that directly in half, you'd end up at the 12th fret and right over the piece of metal. And if you just put your finger over that, but you don't push down, you just touch the string lightly and then pluck with the other finger, notice that a note rings out. Whereas if you do that somewhere else, it might not ring out as clearly, but because you split it directly in half, there's an overtone there. So it's a harmonic, and it can just vibrate part of the string rather than the whole thing. And then there are various other places that do that too. So like if you split the UBase into thirds, let me see which one's thirds. I think it's the 7th fret one. So we have the 7th fret here. Now I got to picture where the other third is. You have the same harmonic there as you do at the 7th fret. And if you split it into fourths, obviously the one in the middle is going to be a half. It's going to be the half, so that's going to be the same one there. But you'll get an octave higher of that. You'll get like that split in half if you do the other places where the fourth happens. So open string an octave higher, then at the 5th fret an octave higher than that. And once again, if you estimate where a fourth is there, like you can measure and actually not have to estimate and go, okay, it's right there. Whoops, I was off a little bit. So I was still estimating, but if you actually measured, it would just be where the string is split into 4 equal parts. So those are harmonics. You just set your finger lightly on the string. You don't push down like you're holding down a note. You just touch the string only. Lightly. Just touch it right in those specific spots. And then pluck the string like normal. That's it. Yep. Yeah, those are kind of fun. So then what I like doing is incorporating other notes with that. And this is kind of something I probably picked up from Victor Wooten or a couple of other people. But like you can go down and up with the thumb on like, let's say 3rd fret on the A string, that's a C note. And then I'm doing pluck, pluck on the harmonics on the 5th fret of the D string and the G string. And the idea is trying to get it as even as possible. And then change the low note around, but try to do the same harmonics. And you can change the harmonics if you want to as well. So there's a whole lot of possibilities you can do by mixing harmonics with normal notes, with the double thump technique, with the down up, with the pluck pluck after the double thump stuff. So double thump, pluck pluck. So there's like just endless numbers of combinations if you keep adding techniques to it. So that's kind of the idea. Oh yeah, when's Victor coming for a solo show? That's cool. Love to see that. If I'm available. The schedule's been kind of busy. But anyway, hopefully y'all found that kind of fun. Does anyone have any questions about any of that, or just general U-bass questions? So I'll just do some slap stuff until I see some questions come in. Okay, so there's a ton of things you can do. This question was from Tofoa. I may be butchering that. Tofowa. Says, what are some things I can do to challenge myself on the U-bass? So the learning process. You could be anywhere in the learning process. You'd have to give me a little bit more idea of that. So you could be at the start where you're just trying to pluck, or where you're just trying to do some other things, or you could be like doing this chordal stuff that we're talking about. So it depends on kind of like where in the journey you are, because we're all still learning. There's still things that I haven't learned yet, certain techniques and other things that I don't even necessarily have down, and how to play them even more cleanly, but you can challenge yourself by just trying the next step, basically. So if you're just focusing, like let's say you're at the beginning of playing, right? So you could just be practicing alternating your fingers. So you're alternating your index and your middle finger. What could you do to challenge that? Well, you could try like jumping over strings. So you could string skip. That could be the next thing if you wanted to. Go from the E string to the D string, down to the A string, up to the G string. And I'm muting in between over here just so the strings don't ring out. So like, I don't know what I'm doing now. I don't know. Anyway, that's something you can practice. Just pass elementary on the chords, trying to find and use fills when playing. Okay. So, so whatever your groove is, I don't know, that's still kind of a lot of different things. So one thing you could focus on is walk-ups. So if you know how to do like, let's say that's your groove. So you could go and do a little chromatic walk down to things, or you could do walk-ups to different things. That's one kind of fill, depending on the genre you're doing. But like, are you talking about like funk? Or are you talking about country or rock? Just like what kinds of things are you doing? Because the walk-ups kind of come from scales a lot of times. So if you know your scales, you can just use that. Okay, you're doing jazz. When you say jazz, are you doing walking bass lines, or are you doing kind of like funky jazz, like groove-based stuff? Because you're going like there are a lot of ways, you know. You could add some right-hand technique stuff into that. You could add the octaves that I was doing there, so instead of just like walking into the next chord, you could go right, just hitting an extra octave. So let's just say you're well, then I guess you could start by just learning different grooves and kind of applying different rhythms to it. To me, funk was kind of helpful for that kind of stuff because you get to experiment with rhythms and kind of like change things up. But I think that kind of question would be better for a lesson because then you can demonstrate where you are. And I'm just going to mention this real quick. I do teach lessons on Skype and Zoom. So if that's something that you're interested in, not this video, but most videos have a link in the description where you can find out how to reach me as far as taking a lesson. So if that's something that you're interested in, you know, that's kind of an easier way to gauge it, because just saying kind of like what's stuff that you could do to challenge yourself, I'd have to know what you're already doing, that you're already challenging yourself, to kind of know where to take it from there. Because like any sort of groove, you can do a walk up to get to something else, but if you're already doing walking bass lines, then to do a fill there, it's probably more like, you know, just some sort of quick little skip in the step kind of thing to get to the next chord. So it just depends on what exactly you're doing there. So one way to spice it up is with right hand techniques or trying to do some string skips. Send you a message on Patreon. Okay. Yeah, and actually Patreon members get a little bit of a discount too. I forgot that you're on there. Yeah. So I can do that for you. So I'll have to do that a little bit later on, but I can do that for sure. But yeah, it's just all about knowing kind of where you're at with it. And if you want to talk to me and send me a message on Patreon or something too, I might be able to kind of address that there. But a lesson's probably a good way to go, because I don't want to give you something so challenging that you're not ready for it. I don't want to give you something that's not challenging enough either. And so, I'd have to be right now assuming what skill level you're at, and I don't think that's really kind of fair to do that, because it would just be a frustrating process of trying to find that middle ground of where we're at. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing country lines and you're just doing root fifth, then the next step would be adding walk-ups. Which I have videos on. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Cool. So yeah, we can definitely do that. I think there's information as far as the Patreon way. I usually say just to email me, and then and there you should be able to find the information on that on the Patreon page if you're logged in. I have a couple things pinned to the top. Just read through the stuff that's pinned to the top. That might be the best way to figure that out. But yeah, I'd be happy to teach you a lesson and just kind of figure out where just what the next step is for you. So that would be cool. And that goes for anybody else if you want to take lessons. I do it through Zoom or Skype. So this thing right here, what I'm doing here is down and up with the thumb and then plucking after. But what I'll do is I'll do it on the D string and then pluck, and then I'll do it on the G string and then pluck. It's hard for me to get those even. That's something that I'm still working on getting cleanly. So sometimes I have to experiment with where to do that on the string. So I do it where the string tension is just a little higher. The tone will be different. I can be more consistent with it sometimes. And there I'm just literally staying on the G string, going down, up, pluck. Down, up, pluck. And so a lot of times with these techniques, when I'm practicing them, I'll take something that I'm familiar with, like that scale against the drone D note, and just try these techniques with that so it's more musical. Oh, sorry, Robert, I didn't mean to skip over your question. I did see that earlier. So James Jamerson's hook technique, I'm not sure I do it completely right. There's only one video of him actually playing that I've found. There may be other ones, but online, there's one that's really easy to find, and it's a live version of Marvin Gaye playing What's Going On. And what I noticed is Jamerson has the pickup cover, and it almost looks like his back fingers are just sliding along the pickup cover while he's plucking with his pointer finger. So he's not playing with his middle finger at all. He's just playing with his pointer finger, like everybody always says. But he's not anchoring a thumb on the pickup or anything. It's like he's doing, I would do the floating thumb technique, but he almost looks like he has the added bonus of being able to kind of glide along the pickup cover that he's got on his bass. So you'll know what I'm saying if you see the video. But yeah, otherwise I think he's just plucking. And then his hand's just able to slide along like that. So right now I'm going to do the float, the same effect. I think it's just nothing but that. So I almost feel like it may be a little bit more of a wrist motion than just the finger, so you get a little bit more weight to it. But it's hard to do. Was it so yeah, it might be a little bit more curved than normal, because upright bass players play with the side of their finger rather than the front like that. So that might be this. Hey, I'm still doing the stream. Hold on one second, guys. It's a stream. Sorry, I'm about to go pretty soon, but yeah, I had to let somebody know it's a stream. So yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think that's the basics of it, though, is that he's really like, something is anchored, right? It might be his thumb, kind of floating along there, or it might be his fingers along the pickup, but he's kind of able to do that, and his finger almost looked like it was a little bit of an angle like that, because upright bass players, they don't play with the tip of their finger like that, kind of tilt it and play a little bit more like this, so it is more like a hook shape, even when I play upright bass, you know? So I think his technique comes from that, just adjusted for electric. So you end up playing almost with like the side of your finger, sort of at an angle instead of just the tip. So hopefully that gives you an idea. If you're playing a U bass, you probably don't want to do the same technique that he's doing, because it's not designed for like rubber strings. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're playing gut strings on an upright bass, then it would help. But like approaching polyurethane strings at that much of an angle doesn't really make too much sense. But I think that's what they're referring to, kind of with the hook, is it's just a little bit of an angle. Now, I don't know about the wrist. I may be bending the wrist more or less than he is, and that's not really something I can talk on unless I watch that video again and look for that. But I always thought it was interesting because maybe that pickup cover was kind of aided his technique. But you could also, you don't have to do that. His hand might have just been floating over, it might have just looked like that, and it might be his thumb just muting as he's playing. But it's interesting stuff. Would flat wounds make any difference? You could play with the hook on the flat wounds. Sometimes I have, you know, when I'm pretending to imitate an upright bass, I'll even do it on the polyurethane strings. But it doesn't really add to it, because you can kind of get a, you're using enough of the finger to get a warm tone out of the bass without having to use more of the finger. And you can kind of think about it in terms of proportions to the string length. If you're using your fingertip on the string, and maybe you're using like a lot of it, but you're going vertically like that, then this much of the string is being hit. And compared to how long the string is, that's a pretty good amount of the string. But on upright, you just barely be hitting, you know, if you made it to scale, it's like your finger would be like this thin or something hitting it. So on upright, you're more pulling and releasing. And that's, I think, why they're saying like the hook kind of thing. But I wouldn't be too concerned about that, because he's still playing pretty fast. And I feel like when he's playing fast, he's still just kind of brushing up against it, not like laying into it like you would on upright. So, because I don't think you go like, there's no need to go that hard on it, like where you're thinking about like a bow and arrow, the string release kind of thing. The bow, like when you're about to shoot an arrow and you release the bow. I don't think you need to think about the bass strings quite like that on an electric bass or on a U bass. But on upright bass, it helps you get the attack for like let's say you're in a big band, they kind of rely on that as kind of like the metronome. And so if it's not there, if you're not getting a little bit of a click kind of, then that might hurt it a little bit. So yeah, I think the hook is like generally just kind of using a little bit more of that side of the finger, but not going so crazy as you're like laying into it or anything and plucking really hard. But yeah, that's kind of my understanding of it, and I may be a little bit off on that. I'd say watch that video of him playing what's going on, because that's really all we can base it on, other than other people talking about it. And unless they were like really close friends to him and also bass players, so he was explaining his technique to them, it's really just kind of speculation at a certain point. but that's what it appeared like to me. So that's what I think when I see him. And there's just a few seconds in that video really where they show a clear view of him, but it's worth watching. It's worth seeing. And yeah, was a brilliant bass player, and changed kind of the way people approach bass in general. It's a great question, Robert. Thanks for asking it. All right. I know I play this on every live stream, but I'm going to play my song Green Tea. The challenge here is holding the bass up while doing it without dropping it. So let's see. Too close to my face. Alright, I'm gonna try that again. No, that was my warm-up. Last one. So if you're watching me and trying to look at the technique, don't go by this wrist right here. Normally I'd have a strap so that my wrist wasn't bent like that. It was actually hurting a little bit. So if you're doing stuff like that and trying to play with those different techniques, have your wrist a little straighter. I'm just trying to hold the instrument up while doing that. So it's kind of out of necessity, but not ideal. All right. So Robert says, have you ever played Green Tea with a guitarist or other instrumentalist? Yes, I have an album out. So the original, I start with the upright bass, and then the band kicks in. So it's a drummer, a piano player, and a saxophone player on the original. If you go through all my videos, I did a version of it with a flute player. So it's just me and a flute player, and I got her to play the melody. And then I have played it with ukulele players. I've done a version where I do a ukulele version of it where I play the melody and the chords on the ukulele and just do the bass part over here, and that's on Rock Class 101, my friend's ukulele website, and it has a lesson included. And I'm trying to think of where else I would have played it with other instrumentalists. I think there's a video somewhere of me playing it on piano, so it doesn't have the percussive element to it, but I just am like playing the bass line and the melody on piano. So yes, I have gotten to do that with a guitar specifically. I'm sure I have. It's just not coming to mind. I did an electric trio version of everything, so I must have done it with them. I'm certain I did that with them because I probably did every song off the album. But I don't think I have I'm not sure if I still have a video of that performance or not. But yeah, it's a great question. So yeah, if you search on Spotify Stephen Cox and Transitions, you'll get the album. So Stephen Cox Transitions on Spotify or on YouTube. You'll probably end up getting something. The album cover has the city of Atlanta on it, and so you could type Green Tea Stephen Cox and probably find it, or on Spotify or anywhere you find music, Apple Music, it's on all that stuff too. But it's not with a U bass; it's with the upright bass on the album. And it kind of works better with the upright because I'm not having to hold the instrument up the same way. So that kind of helps. And of course, the album, the title track on that one. Was it? Anyway, yeah, so that's the title track from there. But there's 8 songs on there, and the last one's a ukulele solo piece. But I didn't have the U-bass then. That was right before I got my first U-bass. So some of those songs I've kind of redone with the U-bass and done duets and done solo versions and stuff. But if you want to hear how they originally were, that's on there. Alright guys, thank y'all so much for hanging out. I think that's going to wrap it up for me today. I think I answered most of the questions I saw in here. If I missed your question, just repeat it in the comments once this is a video, and I'll just answer it that way as well. Usually YouTube's good at notifying me of when there are comments that are unanswered. So yeah, and Seth, I wanted to do a U-bass and ukulele album, but we'll see what happens there. Oh, speaking of Rock Class 101 earlier, look who just chimed in. So that's Andrew at Rock Class 101. He thinks that my song In Between sounds a lot like Misty, so he always likes giving me a hard time about that. And it was inspired by it, but it's not the same. And then he showed me a song today that he wrote that sounds a little bit like My Heart Will Go On. So now I've got that to say back to you all the time. Just keep going with their Titanic songs, and I'll keep going with my my jazz ballad covers. But thank y'all so much for hanging out. I will see y'all next time. I think I'll have a video coming out hopefully tomorrow, but it just depends on the editing process. I've got it recorded. It's just a matter of finishing up the editing. So I will talk to you guys later. Have a good day, week, or month, depending on if you're gonna chime in on the live stream next month or whatnot. All right, have a good one. Cheers, everybody.